Welcome back to the Postpartum Plan podcast. This podcast is designed to support and empower you through postpartum. Whether you're expecting, in the early postpartum days, or beyond, this space is for you. I'm your host, Madison Fugere, a dedicated postpartum doula and pediatric sleep consultant, striving to help parents feel confident and supported in their parenting journey. Each week, I'm sharing practical tips and expert advice to help you navigate all the postpartum things with confidence. Well, as much confidence as you can. Let's embark on this journey together, making your parenthood as serene and supportive as possible. Flora McCormick, LCPC, is a professional counselor and parenting coach who is passionate about supporting parents and helping them feel more empowered and effective in their parenting. She's an experienced parent educator who teaches parenting workshops in the community and has served for the past 2 years as an early childhood mental health consultant. Flora is the owner of Sustainable Parenting and a monthly columnist for the Montana Parenting Magazine. So excited to have you today. It's going to be a blast. We were just chatting before we hit record here about how this episode we're going to kind of dive into the, big scoop of sibling transitions and all of that. But then in the next episode, I'm going to be doing a recording with adding another child to your bedtime routine. So it's going to be kind of like a mini series here as I post these two. So I'm really excited to dive in. So thank you for being here with me today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Really honored to be here.
Yeah. So before we kind of dive into the, big information and then the big topic here today, which is our sibling transition, do you want to tell everybody like a little bit about yourself, kind of how you got to where you are now and what you kind of do really?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a parenting coach. I started out as a licensed therapist working directly with kids who were 8 and older. And I just found in that work that I had parents basically bringing me kids who their main challenges really were stemming from lack of boundaries, lack of ways that they could have positive ways to help the child work through difficult emotions. And I thought, it's a lot of work for families to take time off and take the child to a counselor and all these things. So unless there's a major trauma or loss, there's a lot that parents can be doing more at home. And I wanted to move upstream and equip parents more. And then I took a few years off of counseling to be a stay-at-home mom. And then I realized, holy cow, well, parents are struggling because this is hard.
Yes.
And it's hard to do on your own. It's hard to do without community. And so those two pieces led me to developing Sustainable Parenting, which is work I do now, some one-on-one, but mostly group support with parents where I help them walk through becoming more equipped, but also more empowered with validation with other parents so that they can be the calm, confident parent they always wanted to be.
I love that. Do you work with like specific age groups typically, or you said it's kind of group themed? So do you have like, a toddler group versus a big kid group or things like that?
Yeah, my focus is kids 2 to 10. So that's typically the niche. Like before that, then I'm pointing people to sleep coaches or eating support because those are the bigger thing, lactation consultants for the 0 to 2. Once you're in 2, then you're getting into the discipline. They're testing rules and boundaries. And I love to equip parents with how they can positively respond. And I say that my methods are really kind of this filling that gap that exists right now between overly gentle and overly harsh.
Yes.
I think we're kind of in this pendulum swing from like, my parents in the 80s were just like, spanking or timeouts that felt like I wasn't allowed to feel anything. But we're kind of swinging the other way where children have all the power and adults feel like they have no power. And that ends up leading to a lot of frustration. So I like to equip people with that middle place. You really can be both kind and firm at the same time And I see it bringing better results where kids are thriving and parents actually like enjoy the process of parenting.
Yeah, I think that's so great because I don't remember what episode I was talking with somebody about, but I was talking about how I find that there's this like big upswing with this idea of like gentle parenting. And so
Yep.
many people see it as like, oh my gosh, like you said, right, letting their child do like whatever they want to do, which isn't the case because in
No.
gentle parenting, you should be having boundaries. So like children strive off of routine and boundaries.
Yeah.
So I love that you're kind of giving that opportunity for that middle place because there
Mhm.
can be a combination of both that can still be, like you said, so healthy and so calm. And you can be that parent that you wanted to be, which is crazy.
Yeah. And sleep coaching is all about that, right? If someone's reaching out to sleep coaching, that's a sense where someone's embracing that middle place too. Because, I found sometimes when I would talk to folks about sleep coaching, they would think that that meant you're somehow like not allowing the naturalness that the kid is supposed to just be themselves.
Right.
And it's like, no, sometimes quote, allowing them to just be who they are is making you miserable as an adult and the kid
Right.
isn't sleeping. It's not better for everyone. Kids are not just going to naturally self-regulate their sleep. Some do, but many don't. Mine
Many
certainly
don't. Yeah.
did not. They needed a little bit of support and I needed support on how to do that in a loving and firm way.
Right.
So I
Right.
love the work that you do and it's so needed.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think there is so many things in the world that when you're raising children, there are so many things that you can let them make decisions on, but there are things that come down to a point where it's like has to be a non-negotiable and figuring out ways to communicate that with children in a positive yet firm still like manner is so
Yeah, let's
huge.
work with their personality type. Let's make something that fits for you and them. But let's not think that it's bad somehow to give some structure to how you're going to build skills like sleep or like emotion regulation or like respectful actions.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
that's amazing. So you've done this work, you've seen how, parents and children interact and how children and other children and siblings and whatnot interact. So I think that, yeah, let's jump into it. So, like,
Yeah.
we have a child at home, family's expecting another baby. What kind of things can you typically suggest? I mean, I find as a postpartum doula, when I've worked with families that are expecting another child, they're less worried about the newborn that's coming and they're so much more worried about the older siblings like
Yeah.
lashing out or being upset or whatever feelings they're having.
Yeah.
So, what can people do prenatally to kind of prepare to add another one to the family?
Yeah. So, first thing I want to tell you is really normal to worry about jealousy. But actually, the studies show that that's not usually the primary major feeling of an older child. That's more often a mixed bag of some, jealousy or confusion about this new person in their family. But also, there can be excitement, there can be happiness, there can be pride in being big brother, big sister. So just like don't let your own preconceptions, about this like muddy the waters, I guess is my
Yeah.
first thing to say. Don't think that that's the only thing and that you might be projecting that towards the kid.
Mm-hmm.
So one really nice thing that you can do is talk to the child in advance about this newness of a person coming into the family and they follow your lead a lot, right? Our language can be really powerful. I know this is true with nutritionists and food. We always tried to talk about yummy carrots as much as we talked about yummy fruit or yummy other things instead of like, you have to eat these carrots because they're good for you. And then you have your
Right.
yummy fruit. Like there's a power in how you talk about it that can, or, affect their orientation. So same thing, like we're really looking forward to this new family member, little sister, little brother. And you can do even a little activity that I've gotten from Positive Discipline. That's Jane Nelson and Lynn Lott, who have been teaching in parenting for over 40 years. And they have a video on YouTube that anyone listening to this could go Google, and it's the candle activity for new baby. And basically, she demonstrates that you can get a candle and another candle, and you light the first one, and you say, this is mom and dad. And when I married your dad, I was able to give him all my love, and it lights the second candle. And then you came along, and then I was able to give you all of my love. And you light the third candle, and daddy still had all of my love, and you had all of my love. And look, I still had all of my love left, because that's how amazing love is. And when this new baby comes and you light the fourth candle, I'm going to be able to give the baby all my love, and you'll have all my love, and daddy has all my love, and I still have all of my love left to give as well, because that's just how amazingly powerful love is. And it's kind of this nice way to frame up for the child that this is not about a turf war. This is not about needing to divide myself up more between more people. Everyone's going to still have equal access to the love in our family. And there's more love going around between you too.
Yeah, I love that. I really love that. I think that that is so cool. Do you have a specific age that you think that that works best with? I know that some young children may not understand that
I think
to
as
the
young
longest
as
extent.
as
Mhm.
young as 2-year-olds, often people think if a child couldn't say something like that, that they wouldn't understand something like that. But, watch the video on YouTube. You'll see it takes maybe 2 minutes to have this little candle demonstration, and just using those simple phrases like dad had all my love, you have all my love. Kids can't understand it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
made me kind of like jump side tangent to what I was going to ask you next, but now I have a new question. Do you find or have you seen that there tends to be more jealousy or upset, or maybe it seems to be easier or harder for families when they're adding new children to the mix based on the age of the older sibling? Or does it really just kind of depend on child's personality and just kind of how you go about things?
Yeah, there's no magic number. Like if you have a spacing of at least 3 years, it's going to be harder or
Right,
easier, anything like that. It's totally, um, you know, child character, their personality specific or the situation specific. There's so
right,
many different factors. So, no, I think it's more just if you see that there are challenges, there are ways to work through it. So let's talk a
right,
little bit about that. So, if, first of all, let's frame up a positive orientation. Secondly, another positive thing you can do is look to draw attention to the child whenever someone else is around. Like it's really easy to develop more jealousy if every time, someone's around, they're like, that baby's so cute. Oh my goodness. And they feel ignored. And
right,
so I did this a lot when my daughter was born, who's my second child. And I would say, as soon as someone would say, oh, that baby's so cute, I would say back, knowing that my son was listening, I know she is the happiest baby because she has the best big brother. She is so lucky. And it's like
yes,
a light bulb would go off for the adults to give some attention there too. And like, oh, Caleb, I bet you're such a great brother. Yeah, tell me about that.
yeah,
And so it was just this way for every time the baby got attention, he also got attention and got sort of puffed up. But then how do we address if there are problems? So I just want
right,
to say, these are two positives. Let's talk about if there's negativity. So if you start then hearing an older child having negativity, it can be really startling. A lot of parents will be like, oh my gosh, what is wrong here? He says he wants to choke the baby. He says, let's throw away the baby,
right. Bring the
send it
baby
back to the,
back.
yeah, send the baby back is often things. Or they could be rough with the baby and kind of like not knowing how to connect with the baby, put a blanket
Right,
on top of its face and things like that. These are all normal things. It doesn't mean your child hates the baby. It's just a normal process of how a 2-year-old or 4-year-old's language is able to say, I'm not kind of loving some of this change.
right.
Yeah. And so it's real. The value I say here is like lean into it instead of pulling away from it. So
Okay,
most parents think the way that we should respond to that negativity is to talk them out of it. Like, oh no, we don't say that about sister. We love sister. She's going to be your best friend the rest of your life, like on and
right.
on moral reasoning. And then the child just feels like you don't get it. And they feel alone in their feelings, like there's something wrong with them that they feel that way. So instead, it's really important to just lean into it and be able to say things like, boy, you're having a hard time that baby is here, or you're having a hard time that things are different with sister in our lives now. Maybe sister's crying and the kid's like, send her back, send her back. Like, it's
Right.
hard hearing that crying. We didn't used to have that sound in our house so much before. That is hard. And this is really counterintuitive to us as humans. We're like, I
Right.
don't want to lean into that. I want to get out of him feeling
Right.
negative. But really, the gateway to getting out of it, it's kind of, this is maybe a weird analogy, but I think of how they talk about like a dog bite. If there's like a
Hmm.
dog biting you, you're supposed to like, if it was biting your hand, like press your hand into the jaw, and it would open the jaw more so that then you can
Okay.
get your hand out.
Yeah.
Like, same with difficult feelings with our kids, whether it's like some anger towards baby, it's actually better to lean into it. And then once that kid feels more heard and understood, then they're more likely to go the opposite direction with you.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think it's so true because parents will so quickly come to me and say, oh, they, keep pushing the baby away, or every time the baby cries, they get upset because they can't hear their show, or they can't focus on this or whatever, or oh, I don't get to play with them as much, so they get jealous. And those types of things happen, but then it's okay, how do we handle that, right? Because no, we can't return the baby like as much as they would like us to in that moment,
Yep.
right? And then that also, I think it's so important to remember that that also doesn't mean that they're one, that they hate the baby at all, or
Yeah.
two, that they're going to feel this way for forever.
Forever. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I
Right.
think
And
that
just
that's so
just like
true.
everything. I mean, if you go to a friend and you're like, "Oh, I wanted to like kill my boss today." You wouldn't want that friend to be like, "Oh my gosh, do we need to call the police?" Like, that's not
Right.
nice to say. You should be respectful to your boss or any of that, right? It's like, no, I'm just sharing a big feeling. So if that friend's able to know and say like, "Oh man, like Serene, you sound like it was a tough day. Like, what did your boss do? Something was really hard about today, huh?" You're going to be able to vent and then move on from that feeling and not feel forever like you hate your boss.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's so true. I think that that's so yeah, I mean, everybody hates change, right? Like to have this
Yeah.
tiny human understanding change, it's going
Most
to
of us.
be so tricky. Yeah. Um, yeah. So now we've kind of prepped the scene, right? Baby isn't quite here yet, but we're kind of preparing. And then when they do come, we are reinforcing or doing whatever. Now, is there a best way to handle when the jealousy does come up and it's less of, you're doing that, but it's more jealousy of, less time with said parent or something like
Mm-hmm.
that? Or is there
Yeah.
something, I know I have a postpartum workbook that people can download below, but it allows them to fill out a sheet about siblings. And I know sometimes I typically suggest, set up sibling support. Like maybe you have somebody that wants to help, but you don't really want them around the baby. They might not be the best with newborns. Tell them and see if they'll take, your older kiddo out for like a special
Mm,
day or something.
yes.
Um,
Yeah.
are there things like that that you could add to that would be great for people to kind of set up prenatally or postpartum so that they
Mhm.
have the older kiddo feeling a little extra special or something like that?
Yeah. Well, so I'm gonna say something a little bit counter to like the like pathway that I hear
Fair
you
enough.
on, which is that like this kind of makes me think back to our overall view of children a lot of times right now in our society, which is like, we need to keep them happy. How
Right.
can we keep them happy, feeling special, feeling like life is fun? And I actually think that brings really counterproductive long term results to our kids' mental health. And instead, we know from research that kids' major goal of it is more to be seen as uh, having significance and belonging. If we
Okay.
could shift from, instead of that, we need to keep them happy, take them on an outing, make them feel special, let's shift our orientation to how in this transition can I make sure this kid feels significant and belonging. So that could look more, yes, I love your idea about having outings and
Right.
things and that can just like logistically help. Like, thank you for taking my kid during nap
Right.
time so I could focus on just like doing whatever our thing is
Hmm.
we're learning from Serene. Or Madison. I was calling you Serene,
It's
but
okay
that's your company. Sorry,
it's there.
Madison.
It's all right.
But significance and belonging could look like maybe getting a junior diaper bag for an older sibling so that they feel ways they can contribute and bring you a wipey or bring out a diaper when you're about to help change the child's diaper.
Mm-hmm.
And not that you're making the child responsible, but including them, involving them can be really awesome. Like one mom, when she was nursing the baby, the child kept wanting to jump on her and get her attention. And instead of being like, get out, get down, I have to nurse, get down, I have to nurse, she said, you know what helps my milk for the baby is like, you can kind of help massage my legs to push that milk up to my, to feeding the baby. I mean, totally fake. Obviously, we know that.
Hey, who
Like,
doesn't want a leg massage, right?
right. But it's like just finding a magical way that the
Yeah.
kid feels like they're contributing to the baby getting that milk that they
Mm-hmm.
need or something,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, you're helping so much. Thank you so much. Or do you think you could read a book to the baby while I'm
Right.
nursing? Go get your favorite story. And
Yeah.
I would love if you could tell her about the pictures, even a kid that's not reading yet, like tell her,
Yeah.
let's read to her the tractor book. All of our kids when they're little have these books we've read to them 15 times a day or something, and they
Right.
know it by
They know
heart.
the
They don't.
words even though they don't know the words.
Exactly. And so it's like, come and read that Thomas the Train book to Jason. So I think it's more about how to involve them. And
Yeah.
because many moms will end up telling me this, like over time, they feel like I can't possibly actually divide myself enough when I'm trying to meet this kid's need and that kid's need and this kid's need and that. And so I'd say, let's stop seeing it as like a top down, you're the only one that can fill their cup and keep each one of them happy, and start seeing our families like a star formation. Like we all contribute and feel more belonging and connectedness
Yeah.
when it's all directional.
Right. I think that it's so funny. I don't remember who told me this story, but similar to this leg rub idea, someone told me that they had their older child. They were explaining that, when baby eats, it's really important that mom eats and drinks water. So the
Yeah.
older sibling would go and get a snack. And so every time that mom would end up nursing, the older child thought it was snack time.
Yeah.
So
And
they
maybe
would
that's
all
it.
have like family snack time.
Totally. Why not? It's like, oh yeah, thanks. Let's do family snack time. That gets to be
Yeah.
like a fun way that the child's involved in that moment and can help bring a snack to mom, maybe to help with the
Right.
milk or bring water. Let's have water cheers. We're always trying to get our
Yeah.
littles to drink more water. So maybe along with you drinking water in that moment while you're nursing, it's a chance to pause and have the child drink their own water bottle together with you. So yeah, so involve them usefully, give them a sense of belonging in this system.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. Now, my other question that I thought of when I was thinking about this was now, when you're having this baby, you're often in the hospital and siblings end up being home with, a caregiver of some type. Sometimes it is the other partner, sometimes it's of another family member or whatnot. Are there things that you found that are helpful to that older child when they are home without their parents? Because, like, that's really you start the change with a big boom, right? Like, all of a sudden, my
Mhm.
family's gone and I'm by myself at the house with someone else,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Do you know if there or have you found any like little things that parents can do to make that easier? I
Mhm.
know a lot of people will do like baby brought you a gift and you bring baby a gift, or,
Mhm.
sometimes might FaceTime or something like that. But do
Yeah.
you have any tips or tricks for that time period?
Definitely. I mean, again, I think it's like that yummy carrots kind of verbiage, is that like how you frame up the time they're going to get to spend wherever that is while you're at the hospital can be framed up really positively. My sister-in-law and brother-in-law just had a baby a year ago, and they their son got to go, the older one, to his very first slumber party while they left to
I
go to the
love it.
hospital, right? It was like, oh my gosh, you're such a big boy. You're going to get your very first slumber party already at your age 3, and he was stoked about it, like super
Yeah,
happy. So just be careful your language, again, sometimes we can, like the carrot analogy, say things in a way that's like, well, we're going to have to be gone. And so you're going to need to stay with someone else and like just do a good job there. That's sort of like framing this up as not as exciting. Or we could
right.
say, ooh, you're going to have your first ever slumber party with grandma and grandpa. How cool is that?
Yeah, no, I love
So
that. That's so great.
I think that
Um,
language and attitude really goes a long way. And then if they're not feeling super comfortable with you being gone, like do some problem solving around it. Like you just said, oh, but I'm going to miss you reading me stories at night. Well, you know what? We could probably do that from the hospital. Let's find a way that I could read, baby, and I could read you a story over FaceTime. Or, if
Yeah.
it's that the kid is going to miss you, I don't know. That's probably my best example, but
Yeah, but
like
still.
solve the problems in advance any way that you can.
I love that. I love that so much. Now, in the show notes below, I'm going to put all of your information, but I'm also going to put a link to the amazing program that you had going right now. You had given me the link for the 10 days to better behavior. Do you want to tell everybody
Mhm.
a little bit about that and about any of the other programs that they could find if they're interested in your services?
Yeah, absolutely. So I also have a podcast where I give really quick tips each week, usually somewhere between 8 and 15 minutes is the length of my podcast. So you could check that out, which is called Sustainable Parenting. And then this program is one that I've created that gives a really nice bite-sized way to start seeing change. If you have found that you are frustrated that your kids don't listen, you feel like there's not a lot of cooperation, or you're experiencing a lot of blowups that last longer than you would like them to. There is a tool for each one of those situations in this 10 days to better behavior. And it's a neat avenue because when you sign up, you put your phone number in and automatically receive a text each day with the short 8-minute audio. And that's really nice because, it can be challenging sometimes to remember, where do I log in? Or I'm
Right.
not sure where, when you've bought a course. And then certainly if someone would want to dive in more and consider the option of having one-on-one coaching because you'd like that direct empowerment and support, that is work that I do with people all across the country and even some internationally. And you can find out information about how to have a consultation call with me on my website, sustainableparenting.com.
Amazing. And then I always wrap up our podcasts by asking if anybody would share, or my guests, I guess I should say, my guests would share, wow, tongue twister, a piece of advice and a product recommendation that they would give towards new parents. It can be in relation to kind of this topic we're talking about today, or it can just be anything. But if you had a piece of advice and a product, what would you share?
My major piece of advice, and this is kind of separate from the topic we've gone on today, but just generally in my parent coaching work, one of my favorite things I do is give this book as a gift to my new clients who work with me one-on-one. And it's called What Should Danny Do? So if you have this older sibling when baby comes home who is like making some not so wise choices, like trying to cover baby with a blanket, or starting to hit, or things like that, it's this really cool book that is sort of a choose your own adventure style, meaning like Danny's upstairs playing and mom calls him to come down for breakfast before going to school. Should he ignore mom and keep playing, or should he come down the stairs? If he ignores mom, turn to page 7. If he comes down the stairs, turn to page 15. And the child gets to make choices and watch how they play out in a way that basically, wise choices lead to happier results, and the not so good choices lead to not so good results. And it's
Right.
not all about punishment. It's sometimes natural consequences, like he got late to school and didn't get to sit next to his best friend at circle time because someone else had already sat there.
Right.
So a really nice tool to be using with kids on how to teach, the sense that you have the power to choose wisely, or choose things that are not so great.
I love that. That's amazing. If anybody wants to connect, feel free to check out the show notes below. But thank you so much for joining me today. I was super excited to chat, and I think everybody's probably gotten lots of information here and so ready to add another one to the family now.
Yeah, thanks so much, Madison.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Postpartum Plan podcast. I hope that today's episode brought you support, relatability, and valuable insight. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review and share with any of your prenatal and postpartum friends and family. Your feedback helps us reach more parents seeking support. And if you're looking for additional resources, please feel free to connect via Instagram at Serene Moments Doula for constant information, tips, and tricks, or check out my website, www.serenemomentsdoula.com. See you next week.